Good morning, everyone. This is Mike Dutter with the National Weather Service in Wakefield, and let's go ahead and get started with our 11 a.m. briefing for this Monday morning. The main aspects of the next couple days for the forecast and any impacts. First of all, today will be there is a marginal risk for severe thunderstorms, a level 1 out of 5 for mainly for, I think the best chance of that occurring would be closer to the coast where the sea breeze thunderstorms will kick off and potentially have some damaging winds up to 60 miles an hour. But we're not actually looking at as significant of severe weather today as even what happened last night over the Piedmont. Louisa and Farmville had some fairly significant damage from storms late last night. But we're not looking for that today. But still, there is still a chance of some brief wind gusts up to 60 miles an hour today. And then tomorrow, that's where the main weather will occur when a strong cold front comes through, and it's leading to a slight risk for severe storms, a level 2 out of 5. And that would be mainly for the whole area, and mainly later, early to mid-afternoon into the evening hours. And we'll get into more of that here shortly. So let's go ahead and take a look at the weather pattern for the next 5 days. Again, this trough of low pressure and sea breeze will cause some scattered showers and thunderstorms, especially closer to the coast later this afternoon into this evening. And then this complex low pressure system takes over for Tuesday. Be a little bit warmer, a little more humid, and definitely as this cold front moves into the area from the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes, that will spawn showers and thunderstorms to move through the area from northwest to southeast. So definitely a day to keep an eye out for the weather. The storms could be certainly pretty strong as they move through. And then for the rest of the week, notice this cold front moves through. We get dry weather. There might be an isolated shower or storm Wednesday, but outside of that, for Thursday and Friday, really dry and seasonable conditions through the week. So the severe storm forecast for the next few days that will be really highlighting the Tuesday time period. Again, there is a scattered storm, especially along the coast today. We have the whole area under a marginal risk, but in reality, I think the best chances of that would be closer to the coast. And, the main threat would be damaging wind gusts of 45 to 60 miles an hour. On Tuesday, with this stronger line of storms moving through, the whole area is under a slight risk of severe storms with damaging wind gusts of 60 miles an hour being the main threat. And then Wednesday, potential for a storm or two, but severe weather is not expected. So we've talked a lot about today already. Just again, the reminder that any storms that do form will be moving out of the north, so from generally north-northwest to south-southeast, and they will be mostly confined, mainly closer to the coast, but certainly east of I-95. And again, the wind would be any wind would be the main risk for today, with a 5 to 15% probability for that. And now for Tuesday's severe storm potential. Again, we're expecting that an area of showers and storms will be moving into Virginia during the late morning, early afternoon, and then continuing to spread southeast through the day and into the evening. Storms will be moving pretty quickly at 40 to 45 miles per hour, and really any storm could have have severe threat of 60 mile an hour wind gust or more. However, large hail could not be ruled out, and also especially right along the coast. I think where the winds are going to be a little bit more southeasterly at the surface, we could see a brief tornado. So tomorrow is definitely a day that we want to keep an eye out for. It's one of those days that right now it's a slight risk of storms, but it's one of those days that it has potential to cause a little bit more damage, a little bit more severe weather potential than a normal slight risk day. And here are the threats. Again, we're keying on right now at least the Piedmont into the I-95 corridor, but really the whole area has the risk of 60 plus mile an hour wind damage, wind gusts as these storms move through tomorrow. Large hail is also possible. Again, we're focusing on this graphic focuses on the western part of the state and what in the Piedmont. However, there could certainly be hail further east as well. And then the whole area has this brief tornado risk. Again, I think the best chance would be closer to the coast, but again, it wouldn't be out of the question to see a brief tornado elsewhere as well. And so I'm going to pull this over right now instead of showing you this stationary, these static graphics. This is just a model depiction of activity. This is actually for today, and you can see that this is about 2 o'clock. And again, these times aren't exact because, again, it is a model depiction, but you get the idea is that there's going to be these scattered storms closer to the coast, along the sea breeze. This afternoon, this is about 3 o'clock. And then gradually, whatever forms will be, moving southward at, 20, 25 miles an hour. And then by this evening, they dissipate. And then overnight, there could actually be another round of showers and storms that especially moves through the northern part of the area late tonight into tomorrow morning. But that is expected to not be severe. It would just be, the normal thunderstorms. But then this is Tuesday morning around 11 a.m. Notice a large area of this thunderstorm activity approaching northern Virginia, and then continuing to dive southward. This is about 2 o'clock. So quickly diving southward into the Richmond metro by mid to late afternoon, and then moving to the coast line. This might be a little fast, but you get the idea of this is that there are some possibility, at least there could be a decent squall line of storms, the strong to severe storms moving out of northern Virginia into central and eastern Virginia and the eastern shore later tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening. Again, the timing probably isn't exactly correct. This might be a little fast, but you get the idea of how that's going to play out over the day on Tuesday. Quickly, I want to go over the excessive rain outlook. We're not expecting any significant flooding. However, today there could be enough slow-moving storms and maybe some training of storms that you could see a localized result in localized flash flooding, especially, say, in Hampton Roads, in urban areas. Tomorrow, most of the area is under a marginal risk of excessive rainfall. But again, these storms tomorrow will be moving fast. So most likely, if any flooding occurred, it would be mainly over those urban areas, where, a quick inch or two could cause some flash flooding. We're not expecting, widespread flooding tomorrow. And then no excessive rainfall risk on Wednesday. Timing-wise, looking at the tables, again, mainly the best rainfall chances will be along the coast this afternoon into early this evening. And again, most areas, that would be mainly closer to the coast or at least east of I-95. But then on Tuesday, pretty much the entire area has precipitation, up to an inch of precipitation, maybe locally higher pockets of precipitation. And again, the timing of that is generally from early to mid-afternoon, especially across the northern and western parts of the area, to later in the afternoon into the evening hours across southeast Virginia and northeast North Carolina. So again, that progression from northwest to southeast through the day on Tuesday. For our regional forecast, again, notice the temperatures are very seasonable. No 90s, at least in the forecast right now, generally in the mid to upper 80s right through the week. Today will be the coolest of the days of the week, but and tomorrow will be a little more humid ahead of that cold front. But once we get to Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, and even into Friday, should be very pleasant for late July with highs in the mid to upper 80s and and lows in the 60s, except along the coast where it may be closer to 70 or the lower 70s. And our precipitation chances after Tuesday night really do not come back until late Saturday or mainly Sunday, where there's just some small chances of rain when perhaps a next low pressure system moves into the area. Rip current forecast for the next couple days. Low rip risk for today. The seas are generally just generally around 2 feet. So generally a quiet rip current day today. And then for the next few days, also quiet low rip risk for Tuesday and for Wednesday as well, with the winds generally remaining offshore. So that's usually not too favorable for rip currents. Now for our marine partners, we are expecting a fairly tranquil marine weather day today with south to southeast winds of 10 to 15 knots, or gusting to 10 to 15 knots. Into Tuesday morning, before that frontal system approaches, the winds will be increasing Tuesday afternoon into Tuesday evening, with gusts up to 25 knots, and most likely some small craft advisory conditions are expected for Tuesday into Tuesday night. And then after the front, the winds decrease back to less than 15 knots, and generally tranquil conditions on Wednesday, maybe a little increased Wednesday night into Thursday. And for those seas, with the south winds, generally seas 2 feet or less in the bay and into the coastal waters. May see on Tuesday, with those increasing south winds, some 2 to 3 foot waves in the bay and 3 or 4 foot seas over the ocean before subsiding on Wednesday into Thursday. And for our temperature outlook for the late this week into early next week, generally favoring near normal temperatures. We saw that in the temperature table earlier. That is expected to continue into next weekend, and we'll still sort of stay in a after the end of the week being dry. We'll maybe get back into a little bit more of a stormy pattern for late this weekend into early next week. So we do have above normal precipitation as favored. But again, generally, typical summer type conditions are expected for the next week and beyond. And just a quick view of the drought monitor. Our next drought monitor update will be released on this coming Thursday. So this is still the one from last Thursday. And, we've had some places have had decent amounts of rain. So hopefully we can improve upon the drought conditions, in the next update this coming Thursday. Even though it's late July and, tropical season climatologically starts to ramp up, especially into August, there's no tropical cyclone activity expected for the next week. So stay tuned. But so far, it looks like it's going to stay pretty quiet across the tropical Atlantic. There's a very large area of Saharan air that's moving off the African continent that's really suppressing a lot of the activity right now. So again, for the next week, it looks fairly quiet on the tropical side. And that's all I have. Thanks for joining, and I'll be happy to take any questions.